Go.
The GOAT's back.
Let me tell you, when Tom Brady was down 14-0 to Sam Darnold, it was starting to get a little bit icky, but then Tom Brady became Tom Brady. And Mike Evans, did he have a good game? Just 10 for 207, 3 touchdowns. Everyone who kept the faith with Mike Evans, Matthew, had it repaid in spades.
Well, you know, we had seen this game before against the Panthers where he'd been wide open for a touchdown. Dropped it. We talked about this game on Fantasy Football pregame, Jay. You made the point about how the fact that they're like they're dusting off the mothballs of Josh Norman and bringing him in there. Like, that's how beat up their secondary was. I don't know that any of us expected 10 for 207 and 3 touchdowns, but we did expect a good game from Mike Evans as well. 32.1 fantasy points, his number one wide receiver in fantasies. We had into Monday Night Football. 48% of Tom Brady's total passing yards in Week 17. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter or Instagram. Tom Brady literally trolling fantasy managers saying, like, if you didn't start Mike Evans, that's on you. How dare you on your fantasy team. Yeah, listen, it was a long road to get there. And chances are if you were in the finals, you got there despite Mike Evans, not because of it. But he just absolutely crushed, and I know a number of people that either won their league because of Evans and Brady or lost because they were facing Brady and Evans.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this for weeks, no, months, like especially on the open and close it section. It came to a point where we was like, hey, you know, man, we just going to keep it open. We just going to keep it open. Then we said, you know what? We closing it. But in the back of our minds, we knew it was coming. We didn't know it was going to come like this. But we knew at some point, and all it took was a playoff spot on the line for the Bucs, them being down 14-0, and Tom Brady just doing Tom Brady things at the end of the day.
NFC South champs. Got a little bit.
By the way, they're also 9th straight 1,000-yard season for Mike Evans. Like, extends his own NFL record. Like, unbelievable. Like, he has 1,000 yards in the bank every season, and his 4th straight game with 8 targets. You know what I mean? Like, what's weird is that the volume has been there for Mike Evans consistently, and the yardage, it was the touchdowns which got really fluky, because here's a guy that in the last 2 years had like 13 and 14 touchdowns with Brady there. So it was just a little bit fluky. They were taking some deeper shots, and obviously the offense had its moments of up and downness, but you know, nice to see Mike Evans elite. And hey, listen, if I had a Mike Evans jersey, I would wear it as well. Eckler's actually going to bring me a fantasy championship in a league that I really care about this week.
There you go. Lawrence, a little bit overshadowed naturally by the result in Mike Evans, but DJ Moore continues to build his romance with Sam Darnold. It's very strange when, like, the one quarterback you really want throwing you the ball is Sam Darnold. Doesn't work with anyone else, but Darnold to Moore just keeps on working.
In DJ Moore's case, it actually worked earlier this season with P.J. Walker. It was the one person it didn't work with, and that was Baker Mayfield. But, yeah, good game for DJ Moore, 117 yards and a touchdown, which is a solid game by no means. And if you play him in your fantasy championship game, that helped you. But when you got a guy on the other side going for 200, you know, people won't tend to talk about it, especially when you're on the losing end.
Yep. All right, let's go to Colts-Giants, which was...
But it was sort of... I don't know that there's a lesson to be learned here, right? I mean, because it's just like, again... At the end of the day, both Mike Evans and DJ Moore were disappointing fantasy draft picks in terms of the production they had throughout the season.
Yeah.
But we knew and still know both guys, really talented wide receivers, and at the end of the day, talent, you know, tends to win out.
Yep. Let's go to Colts-Giants, where the Giants clinch a playoff spot over the pitiful Indianapolis Colts. This was a tough watch unless you're a Giants fan, but pretty good watch for those who have Daniel Jones on their roster, and he went off.
He was great. I mean, it's super annoying, by the way, too. I'm in a 14-team league, and I had the best team in this league. I had Saquon. I had Ramondre Stevenson, Dak Prescott, Jamar Chase, Mike Williams, T.J. Hawkinson. Again, it's a 14-team league. I rolled people in this league. Leonard Fournette. Again, 14-team is deeper, I think, than, you know, like that's a really good 12 or 10-team league, and it was a 14-team league team.
How'd it go this weekend?
Did not go well this weekend because the guy I'm playing had Daniel Jones. I had Saquon. Massive disparity right there. He also picked up the Jacksonville defense. He got like 16 points from the Jags.
A little stat padding, too.
My Swaguars, like outrageous. But Daniel Jones was ridiculous. credit, Jay, I want to give you some love here because on Fantasy Football Pregame on Sunday morning, we talked about that. You said, like, Daniel Jones, people want to bag on him, but, like, he's not only a perfectly fine quarterback for the NFL, he's in a good fantasy spot in this one. They're using his legs, and as well, he's now had double-digit rush attempts in 3 of the past 5 games. And, listen, like, a lot of it was some long runs. We didn't expect this. I don't think any of us expected 36.2 fantasy points and being the second-best quarterback in fantasy heading into Monday Night Football. But we expect him to be viable in this game against a Colts team that was sort of, coming in really limping.
Yeah, and the key with Jones is just no turnovers this year. He's only thrown 5 picks.
That's the big thing for him. That was a big thing for him. And, his last touchdown, too, shout out again if you did have him starting. His last touchdown, he didn't really even have to get that one. So that one really hurt your fantasy team a little more. They was already blowing him out.
Could you get Saquon Barkley in the end zone? Really disappointing on there. Credit to Brian Daboll, who likely won't win Coach of the Year, but should be right. I mean, needs to be in the conversation. Like, just an unbelievable job of, taking what he had to work with, which wasn't a lot, and making them viable and crafting an offense for the skill sets of the players that he did have there. I mean, Isaiah Hodgins gets in the end zone. Richie James gets in the end zone. 2 guys that we also talked about on pregame that we like. The shocking one was, as you see it there on your screen, Richie James. We talked about the fact that Kenny Moore was out and James plays the slot. 7 for 76 and a touchdown for Richie James. Isaiah Hodgins just been red hot, continues to score.
He's good.
Week after week after week. 4 for 42 for Hodgins as well. And they're working this offense. What I will tell you is Saquon, really disappointing game for Saquon Barkley. Not even a top 35 running back as we head into Monday Night Football. This is the weird one. There's some weird thing going on with home road splits. I don't know if it's just variance or, bad luck, but averaging under 15 fantasy points per game at home and under 95 scrimmage yards. Meanwhile, on the road, 21 fantasy points per game, 114 yards from scrimmage. I don't know if it's because on the road maybe you try to run a little bit more and you're trying to take the crowd out of it or whatever, but this is a game in which Barkley should have had a much bigger day.
Yeah.
Instead, Daniel Jones is the one who gets all the rushing.
I think the problem is that Daboll's a really good coach, and he realized that the Colts have a really good run defense, and they were getting whatever they wanted through the air and with Daniel Jones in his legs. And Taquan didn't have a bad game in terms of his efficiency. I mean, he was 4.8 yards per carry. Yeah. He got 58 on 12 carries. He just didn't get the usage at all. Lawrence, let's not talk about any Indianapolis Colts. Let's go straight to Bears.
Except
Lions.
Shout out, I just want to take 10 seconds here to just shout out Nick Foles, because that was I thought that was, and they've talked about this on Pro Football Talk and other people, I thought that was one of the least classy things I've ever seen. Kayvon Thibodeau, like a monster hit on Nick Foles. Give him credit, like a great sack.
Do you think he knew that Foles
Yes, that's all the people on Twitter defending Thibodeau are like, oh, he didn't know. He's doing a snow angel. I don't know where I am. He's literally, watch the video. He's literally hitting Nick Foles. Nick Foles is like convulsing on the ground. I'm not trying to make fun of him, but he's literally convulsing. Like, it's an awful hit. And like, they're nervous for Nick Foles. You don't know what kind of, and Thibodeau's sitting there doing the snow angel as Foles
was he hitting his shoulder like that? No, that would have been messed up.
Yes, he is.
Hey, man, wake up.
Watch the video. And so then, again, he's on the ground for 11 seconds. They bring the cart out. Medical trainers are around there. Players are kneeling, and yet there's Thibodeau on the sidelines doing the sleeping thing. I put him to sleep.
All right, that part right there was where I was kind of I don't know about that one.
Again, he said after the game, I didn't see him. How can you be so unaware that you don't know that the crowd has gotten quiet? There's a cart coming out. And there's coaches and players surrounding somebody on the ground. How can you be that unaware? And I just thought, listen, Thibodeau's a great player, but you can be a great player and a bad person. And I got to tell you, in that moment, he was a bad person.
Not a great look for Kayvon Thibodeau. Let's go to Lions-Bears. Lawrence, Jared Goff just continues to cook. It was a very favorable matchup for him, but he delivered the goods.
When they said the over-under of this game was 52.5, I didn't think it would be the Lions scoring all damn points. Well, Justin Fields led him down there on his first drive, scored touchdown. So, all right, nice little back and forth. Justin Fields about to go off again. Oh, no, sir. Lions defense stepped up, and Jared Goff just kept on cooking, man. QB 6 for the week, 3 or more touchdown passes in 3 of his last 4 games. Now, you just talked about Daniel Jones, being a, solid quarterback for the league. Well, what about Jared Goff here? this dude playing, he's quarterback for the Lions. And, we thought, on the Hard Knocks, all the hoopla, everybody get excited, then it just kind of goes down. But this Lions team right now, at 8-8, in a position to make the playoffs, tough matchup against Green Bay. But they're in this position in big part because Jared Goff stepped up this whole season.
Yep. Credit Ben, not just Jared Goff, but credit Ben Johnson, the offense coordinator. Like, I wish, again, I've talked about this. Like, if Ben Johnson was named, Jim Bob Cooter, which, by the way, is the name of a former Lions offensive coordinator.
Yes.
But, like, if he had a fun name, like, people, I think, would be talking more about him. Ben Johnson is just like, whatever. Ben Johnson's your accountant. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, Ben Johnson's like your Nate, the guy that sits next to you at the PTA.
Yes.
Even
if he didn't have a great name like Nate Sudfeld, but at least it's, like, recognizable.
At least it's right.
Because we all know a Ben Johnson.
1,000%. Yes. No, 1,000%. Ben Johnson takes my kids. He drives Wednesday in the carpool for the kids.
Yeah,
I mean, like.
Played the halfback flank for the Collingwood Magpies.
Right, exactly. I mean, anyway. I don't know. Ben Johnson's like my dentist, and it's unfortunate because he's done an unbelievable job as the offense coordinator of the Detroit Lions. And look, it's one thing to play against a Bears team that has a bad defense and is sort of limping out the season, but still, once again, called a masterful game. We talked about how much Goff. We said in this coming in again in pregame, we talked about this was not only going to be a fantasy game to target, but that we thought Goff would be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. He's actually QB6. Okay, fine, off by 1 spot as we go into Monday Night Football. But like just ridiculous. And they ran the ball. It was nice to see DeAndre Swift look like DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
Jamal Williams got a bunch of run as well. Justin Jackson was inactive in this game, and so the fact of the matter is that. Both guys. So, DeAndre Swift, 15 touches. Jamal Williams, 23 touches. Swift gets the 2 touchdowns, but Williams looked good. It's Jamal Williams' first time with 20 touches since week 9. I don't know that you can count on this, but you know what? Against Green Bay, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, you can run on the Packers as well. Anyway, both these guys were nothing short of fantastic. And Goff is legit. We talked about this in the preseason. When Jared Goff gets time, Jared Goff is fine.
Yes.
And again, it's just similar to Daniel Jones.
Yep.
Like both guys are.
They're in the Kirk Cousins zone.
They're in the Kirk Cousins zone. Exactly. Better than you think. Disappointing game in the script on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, you wished a little bit better for him. Yet another game with random touchdown. Like. All I know, pick a tight end on Detroit and somebody scoring, like just another random. It was 2 for Brock Wright in this game, as opposed to Zylstra, 3 from last week. Like, what are we doing? We can't get him on Raw like a touchdown here, but
it worked out for T.J. Hawkinson and Lions tight ends. Everybody getting a
everyone
shot
is, except you just don't know which one to start.
You just don't know which one to
start. The start of the on the Lions.
Just quickly, the Bears. I mean, Fields, his stat line looks ugly, but the rushing gives you a little bit there, but not a great finish to the season in the fantasy playoffs for Fields. And then David Montgomery did nothing.
Yeah, I mean. Disappointing. I think the game just got away from them in terms of Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. I mean, that's the other thing about. I mean, when we talk about this, but he played just 54% of the snaps in this one. That's his lowest snap percentage in a game since week 7. Khalil Herbert was back and fully back. I mean, they basically split touches in this one. Single-digit touches for the first time in a full, healthy game this season for David Montgomery. Again, the game sort of got away from him. We've talked about this. Other than what Carolina did to them, the Lions' run defense has been good over the last 2 months or so. So it's sort of like a game that I don't think you can take much away from, other than the fact that Justin Fields is special, and he's going to be special next year. Again, over 100 rushing yards in this one. Remember, no Darnell Mooney in this one. They had Chase Claypool back a little bit, but they're going to get him some help in the passing game in the offseason.
Need a lot of it. Do you feel like he could be a possible, ride or die for you next season? See what they do in the offseason.
He's in the mix. He's in the mix. But I mean, I put out my way too early top 50 for 2023. You can check that out on rotoworld.com, NBCSportsEdge.com. I'm a company man. Justin Fields inside my top 10 quarterbacks for next year.
Sure.
I mean, he's going to be 5 or 6, I think, QB 5 or 6 next year.
Yep. All right, let's go to Wisconsin. And first, let's hear from the best interview in global sports at the moment, and that's Jair Alexander.
From week 1? Oh, yeah, just all the yards he had. That's what I was calling the fluke. Because, he was catching passes with nobody even on him. Yeah, okay, good job.
So if that was a fluke, what is one catch for 15 yards?
Man, greatness. A lot of times you see him doing the gritty. It was my turn, so, I wonder what they thought.
Oh, look. Patrick Mahomes is going to win MVP, but to me, the MVP of the National Football League is Jair Alexander. Look at this guy.
Got at least
He's
in
out
there.
of
He's
his
out there
mind.
grittying. That's fantastic. He is a fun interview. And for those of you listening, he was wearing a big Packers hat, like a big Packers hat. I like the fact that Brian Robinson started this trend, and now everyone's wearing these these big hats. Like
Justin Jefferson just losing his mind.
Justin Jefferson losing his mind. He takes off his helmet. He hits the ref in the back of the head. It was. We should talk about Justin Jefferson here for a second here. So, it's his worst fantasy performance of the season, right? I mean, his second fewest receiving yards in a game this season. Right? He had 3 for 14 against Detroit in Week 3. Targeted on just 12% of his routes. I mean, it was a bad day at the office for Kirk Cousins and the entire Vikings offense. And so it's one of those, it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you probably weren't in the finals without Justin Jefferson.
Right.
Right? But on the other hand, he's your star. He was your number one pick. Show up. In a game in which game script should have worked for Justin Jefferson. They're down and they're down big. They should be throwing all the time.
One would think.
And yet KJ Osborne has a better game than him. TJ Hawkinson has a better game than him.
This game, it reminded me of the last 5 minutes of Requiem for a Dream. If you've seen that film, I'm not going to go into the details because we're a family-friendly show, but it was just everything just goes wrong. It's just a complete nightmare. And Justin Jefferson, 1 for 15 against the Packers defense, which is okay against the pass, but still, I didn't think that was possible. And I think lots of problems in Minnesota. Their offensive line is now really banged up, and just nothing went right for anyone in that game, Lawrence.
And I'll go back to Jair Alexander real quick. I love me my corners. Credit to him, and he talked the trash, and they backed it up versus him. It's just as simple as that. Now, just for us Justin Jefferson fantasy managers, right? Like you said, Matthew, he's our star. He got us there. All those 20-point and 30-point weeks.
He is good enough that he shouldn't be able to be shut down.
Yes, that is very true. At the same time, I'll be thankful for my second place fantasy finishes all across the board. I'll be like, hey, you got me here because we can't be mad at the guy. And shout out to Jair Alexander too. He said, go ahead.
We absolutely can be mad at the guy. This is fantasy football. This is the land of irrational takes.
Yes.
This is the land of emotion over logic. Please, we can absolutely be mad at the guy, or we can be mad at Jair. I think our real ire should be at Kirk Cousins. Come on, take a deep shot.
We can be mad at him.
Yeah, Jalen Naylor. Really?
You had an ire for Jair Alexander, one sitting right there for you, Matthew.
Yeah, Jair did his job.
Yeah, I know. He cost people some championships.
I don't blame Jair Alexander. But I'm just saying, in junk time, they couldn't have found a way to get Justin Jefferson open. Anyway, I'll say this again, going back to my top 50, my way too early top 50 for 2023. My number one player for next year is Justin Jefferson. I'm not moving off of that even after this game.
Yep. Well, Christian McCaffrey had a pretty good game. I think he might be number one by the time everything is said and done.
I have him number 2.
Yep.
We'll see.
All
We'll see if he returns to San Francisco.
Just quickly, Aaron Jones bounces back. Don't know what's going on with his health, but he looked perfectly healthy and had a big game, even if it didn't come with the touchdown.
Yep. Factually correct. But what's weird is again, I don't know if it's because they trust Dylan more, but he's now had 6 straight games without a rushing touchdown. Right? He has more receiving touchdowns than rushing touchdowns, which has not been a part of his game. Receiving's always been a part of his game, but he's always been a guy that they've trusted at the goal line in previous seasons. And for whatever reason, this year recently they aren't. It's much more A.J. Dillon. And so Aaron Jones much closer to an RB2 than the RB1 he was drafted as.
Yep. All right, let's go to, I think, what was the strangest game of the week, and that was Raiders-Niners. This game was completely drunk. The total went 30 points over what it was listed at. Jarrett Stidham goes off. Brock Purdy is an adventure, man. I needed the Niners to win that game for a lot of reasons, and that was an absolute adventure. Brock Purdy throws it up for grabs. And you see Jarrett Stidham, though, what he did. He did anything he wanted against the best defense in the NFL, Lawrence.
This is, you want to talk about shocking. If you see it there on your screen, the fantasy quarterback leaders in Week 17 as we head into Monday Night Football, and we've still got, Burrow and Allen to play. But as we head into Monday Night Football, number 1, Tom Brady. who's been like a disappointment this year. Number 2, Daniel Jones. Number 3, Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, in front of Patrick Mahomes.
Ahead of Patrick Mahomes. Stidham against the Niners, by the way. Not just Jarrett Stidham, number 3, like that's crazy, but number 3 ahead of Patrick Mahomes going against the Niners. He puts up 26 fantasy points. Russell Wilson, the ghost of Russell Wilson, making an appearance at number 5. Goff at 6. The ghost of Deshaun Watson at number 7. Sam Darnold at 8. By the way, Brock Purdy, who you don't like, comes in at number 10.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it's just an adventure with Brock Purdy. He makes some great throws, but to me, that's why Kyle Shanahan is Coach of the Year, because they're scheming up a lot of stuff for Brock Purdy. But with Stidham, I watched every second of that game. Stidham, like, it was a miracle whenever the Niners got off the field. It just felt like they were just going to march down every single time, and they needed like a fluke interception. It was just out of control.
I don't know about y'all, but I called Stidham. I had him as a top 5 quarterback. I don't got it nowhere documented or no proof, but I said it somewhere in my life, so I don't know about everybody else.
Makes you think twice about training for Derek Carr in the offseason.
It does a little bit. I mean, the other thing is that this is a football discussion and not a fantasy one, but and we'll talk about like sort of Stidham and Carr next season. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But you have to wonder like how much of I just don't know the answer to this. Did Josh McDaniels come in and say like, here's my system, figure it out, Derek Carr, or did he, or did Derek Carr not do? Because Stidham has been in that system for a number of years, when they were with the Patriots together, and so it just may have been easier for Stidham to do what McDaniels wants in that offense versus with Carr, it may have been more of a learning curve, and that McDaniels may have been like, this is the offense as opposed to, all right, Derek Carr, what do you do well, what don't you do well, and we're going to do that as well. Nice to see Josh Jacobs coming back. Like, again, we were worried about this against the Niners and like just the entire Raiders. Credit to them. Devontae Adams was awesome. Josh Jacobs was awesome. Even Darren Waller, who split in time with Foster Moreau, he's now scored a touchdown in 2 of the last 3 games. He played 57% of the snaps. Like, I don't know, it just right. Yep. Just a great game.
And
by the way,
on the Niners side, Lawrence, I mean, to me, the story is Christian McCaffrey. He's the best running back in football. I think just the angry run, the Marshawn Lynch run, I think off the screen, that was just absolutely insane. He is that offense at the moment. And Brandon Aiyuk also was incredible, particularly in money time. When they needed to drive down the field, Purdy was just going, all right, every single play, where's Brandon Aiyuk?
Yeah, they finally got it going. Remember the first couple of weeks with Purdy, Aiyuk couldn't get it going with him. Now it's consecutive weeks we've seen Aiyuk and Purdy kind of connecting more. And Christian McCaffrey, there doesn't need to be anything said. That boy just be out there toting that rock. He's their offense.
Look, I mean, we talked about this. Like, it looked like there was more of a connection with Kittle, and he does catch a touchdown here. But Aiyuk now has 80 receiving yards or more in back-to-back games, a 34% target share in this one from Brock Purdy. And, yeah, I think he's the 3rd best wide receiver in fantasy. Like, a great game for him. He's now had 13 or more fantasy points in 3 of the last 4.
Yep. CMC, Aiyuk, Kittle, and, oh, by the way, they're getting Deebo Samuel back. That offense is absolutely loaded if Brock Purdy can lead them there. All right.
If they win next week, Kyle Shanahan goes 6-0 with Brock Purdy. He's Coach of the Year.
He's Coach of the Year. All right, when we come back, Weekend Warriors with that man, not Matthew Berry, Austin Eckler.
That is Austin Eckler.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.